looking at the cuts yesterday, could you just tell us about the kind of back end of your wide receiver room, the two rookies making it, plus Irv, in the second year?
Tremendous work by them, obviously, to open up with an impression during OTAs. I thought Brownlee and X both did a nice job kind of like putting themselves on the map early to get us excited about them going into training camp, and they've answered the bell since. X has shown dynamic ability in the return game. He's a really good football player. He's got great feel for space in the pass game. Obviously, he still has a long way to go. He's going to get better, but the way he works, his intent, his mindset, you could tell he's going to be a really good football player in this league. And then as for Brownlee, again, same thing. He's got an ability to make really tough contested catches. Obviously, didn't show much during the preseason. Didn't get very many opportunities, but in practice, it seemed like once every other day he was coming down with an unbelievable catch that was heavily contested. So another young man who he also has a long way to go, but from a special team standpoint and all that stuff, he's got he'll continue to get better again with his mindset. And then with Irv, we were really excited about Irv last year. It didn't work out. He's been on the practice squad. The young man's worked his tail off. And he's got, from a special team standpoint, the sky is the limit for this young man on special teams. He is an absolute wolf on those units. But at the same time, he's getting better on offense. There's a lot of things that he does. Still has a long way to go on that side of the ball, but what he brings from a special team standpoint is off the charts. But at the same time, really looking for him to take that next step on offense, and he did. There's more steps to follow for him.
Robert, do you see Gibson? You call him a dynamic returner. Is he your returner right now?
We're gonna work through it. McCole still has something to say about it, but he's got that versatility along with what he's shown on offense. So. Still some decisions to be made. Nothing set in stone with regards to the return game and all that. But knowing that he's an option is a good thing.
Robert, I got a little big picture question for you. Just looking at this division, now you kind of move into regular season mode. You were in the NFC West for a few years, where that was the division in football. Do you look at the AFC East right now in sort of the same vein as this could be one of the best divisions in football, and I'm interested to see how you guys stack up in that division?
Yeah, I feel like my entire career I feel like I've been stuck in the when I first got in the league, it was Peyton Manning in the AFC South, and then Tennessee was really good, and then we go to the Seattle my first time around. San Francisco was really good, so was Arizona, and then come back to the AFC South, and it was Andrew Luck was rolling along with Tennessee was still good, and Jacksonville was good. Go back to Jacksonville. We were Jacksonville. We go back to San Francisco, and then Seattle's still good, and the Rams right. So it's always been that way, but the mindset doesn't change, because the good thing is, yes, we are in a really tough division, but they all got to play us too. So the mindset's always about us. It's about what we can bring, and it's about whether they can stack up with us. Sounds cocky, I get it, but you can't think of it any other way. It's not about the opponent. It's about what you do every day to be the best version of yourself. We have an unbelievable division. Bill and New England the resume speaks for itself. What they're doing up in Buffalo with the quarterback and their defense and Sean, they've established and got their feet in the ground. They're the champs in this division until they're not. And Miami arguably has one of the better rosters in all of football, and they're doing a great job. So it is a very, very tough division, and I think it's going to be exciting to see how it all plays out.
We ask about the Super Bowl a lot. You hear about Super Bowl a lot, but do you guys talk about the division and winning the division? Is that one of the first goals set for the season?
Yeah, it's we talk about owning the East, and you got to win your division games, and the easiest path to the playoffs is to win the division, right? But again, it's one game at a time. But obviously, the division games, you want to perform well in the division. Last year, we wanted to show that we can win a game. I think we were on like a 300 game losing streak or whatever it was in the division, and we won a couple, and this year we want to win a couple more, and just continue to build on the momentum that we've gained. But the division is always a big deal. There seems like all those games are always tight, and but like I said, it's the easiest path to the playoffs.
How does being in a division like that get you balance tested for possibly what's yet to come?
Oh yeah, you're not going to see. I mean, there's a lot of great teams in this league, but when you've got 6 games, 2 against New England, who's going to be sound and perfect in what they do, and you got Miami, who's just so dynamic with playmakers and all over the field on offense, defense, and special teams, and you got Buffalo, who's got all the experience with an unbelievable quarterback. You're going to get tested week in and week out with our division, and so it does prepare you for everything else that the league has to throw at you.
Robert, what's kind of your approach to this next week and a half? Because it's kind of unique with the way the schedule has changed, where you guys have this week in between the preseason and the season, and then you on top of that are playing on Monday night, so you're even later in the week. So I'm just curious, how do you approach making sure everybody's staying in condition and shape, all that stuff, as you get into week one?
No, for sure. We got a couple more practices. We got practice today, practice tomorrow. Get your then there's a mandatory 3 days off. Come back from Monday, Tuesday, take another day off Wednesday, which is mandatory, and then we're on our week. So you're sprinkling in their lift days, you're sprinkling in some practice. You don't want to overwork them, but at the same time, this week is more about getting their bodies back from a grueling training camp and getting their minds right, and kind of taking a quick peek at Buffalo. But at the same time, it's you don't want to rush through a game plan, so it's just throw some stuff out there. We got plenty of time, and but this is about getting their bodies back and getting themselves ready to hit the ground running on Thursday, which would be in-season Wednesday.
Going back to the AFC East theme for a second, Robert, it's been 2 decades since the Jets won a division. I'm sure you're aware of that. Do you dangle that as a carrot with the players? How much motivation is that, and what would it mean to end that pretty long drought?
I'll be honest. We don't. I know, there's been so much talk about Super Bowls and divisions outside the building, and there's even talk in the building about embracing those possibilities. But it's not something that's talked about. It's everybody knows what the goal is. Everybody knows what we're trying to accomplish. But I've said it to you guys before. What's talked about in this building is, are you doing everything you can to get better? Are you doing everything you can to go to bed better than when you woke up? And that's it. The results will take care of themselves. And so as far as carrots are concerned, Rich, it's not necessarily a carrot that's dangled. These guys don't care what happened 20 years ago. They're focused in the moment. They acknowledge, but it's not their story. Their story is what's about to be written. And that's where the focus is, in maintaining maintaining that idea that we're going to dominate the moment. And if you do that, then you give yourself at least a chance. But it's not something we really talk about.
Robert, with Thomas Morstead, is he coming back to the roster today if you guys make some moves, or are you so confident in this offense you just think you're not going to have to punt this game?
It's a joke question. We'll see. There's still a couple of things that have to get done.
And Robert, in terms of guys that made it, we saw on Hard Knocks how much you love Chad Surratt. What do you love about his game, and what did he show you in camp this year?
You know what? God, if he could just stay healthy, that's been kind of what's hampered him throughout his the short part of his career. But he's got everything you want in a linebacker: speed. He's got heavy hands. He's very smart. Can play all 3 positions. He understands leverage. He understands angles. He understands coverage. He's very smart, and he's gotten a lot better since he's gotten here, and I think that room has a lot to do with it. His mindset, his intent, he's become kind of an ass on the football field, excuse my language, but he's got a chance to be pretty freaking good. And, you could argue that he's got starter capabilities in him. He's just got to stay healthy and continue to prove it.
Robert, we saw on Hard Knocks last night, Aaron, during one practice, there was a series where there was a lot of mistakes, and he was pretty upset. He used a lot of language. He said to us that he's mellowed and he doesn't really get on guys as much anymore, but clearly that showed he does. How does that hit with the team? Because, obviously if you have a quarterback who's 21, 22 years old, they don't have that kind of clout. When Aaron kind of expresses, we got to be better in practice and that kind of thing, how does that kind of hit with the team, and how does that help you as a coach?
No, absolutely. It's like I said, the best coach teams are the ones that coach themselves. And it's not that coaches don't coach. It's just, it strikes different when it comes from up here. We always talk about effort. We always talk about being clean. We're always correcting mistakes as coaches, but when it's coming from players and they're holding themselves accountable and they're holding each other accountable, and it is a very powerful message. So and it's happening. What's great is you see it in the D-line room with Quinnen stepping up. You see it in the DB room with DJ and the way he speaks, very quiet in his quiet manner. CJ Mosley, and then along the offensive line and receiver room, it's been. We've got a really cool group, and it's where the veteran leadership is stepping up and taking care of all the little things that can kind of get away in the locker room when that can get away from people in the locker room, if that makes sense. But a really cool dynamic, and a guy like Aaron, I've said it. I mean, I got in the league the same year he did. We've both been in the league for 19 years, and he's gotten bullets sprayed at him every year since he got in. I get to sit on the sidelines and hit the rewind button. He can't. So he's got a wealth of knowledge, and so it's always good to get his input.
We'll take a few more for Coach.
Robert, we've asked you kind of versions of this question a lot over the last year or two, but your first year here, the defense finished toward the bottom of most categories. Now you look at this roster, you look at you have 10 defensive linemen that'd be starting elsewhere. You have that secondary, the talent you built up here. Is this kind of like what you envisioned for this defense when you got here, in terms of the talent, all the pieces fitting together this way?
Yeah, that's the way you want to draw it up, right? It's but for sure, there's a style that we want to play. There's a mindset that we want to play with, and it's bringing in the people that you feel can execute that style and mindset. And you know what, I love that group. They absolutely have the mindset. They come to work every day, and they do everything they can to maximize who they are as individuals every day they walk in this building. And because of it, it reflects and it shows on the field with their passion and love for this game and love for one another. And I think that sometimes gets lost. We've all, Joe and his staff, and obviously our staff, just a communication, collaboration to make sure that we're being very selective on who we brought into this building, and from there they've done the rest. It is a really cool group of guys.
Robert, does the Sopranos ride to the stadium give you a little more street cred?
I don't know. My brother texted me. My wife. I don't get street cred until my wife signs off, so I'll wait for her to watch the show.
Anything else for Coach? Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Coach.
All right. Thank you, guys.